All right, so I'm going to show you how to make new columns for your informed consent and then eligible age. So for the informed consent, I'm just going to click on this little arrow, or you can right click on this column, and I'm going to insert a column right, and I'm going to call this IC. And then what I'm going to do is write a logical expression using an if statement. And so basically, my logical expression is going to be if this cell equals I agree to participate, and then the response is either a yes or no based on this answer. So I'm going to say equals, because you always start your formula with equals. And then I'm going to say if, and I can actually click up there, or I can just go ahead and enter a starting parenthesis. And then it's asking me to put in my logical expression. So the expression I'm testing is this I agree to participate. So I'm going to click right there, and I'm going to say equals. I want to test if it matches I agree to participate. I'm going to end that with a parenthesis. So there's quotations around that, because then it will treat it as a full response, as a character response. And so I have B2 equals I agree to participate. The next part is you put a comma, and now we're moving over to the value if true. So if I agree to participate is in that cell, I want it to say yes, because that person has agreed to participate. So yes to informed consent. If that value is false, so if it did not say I agree to participate, I want it to say no. And then if I just press enter, it's going to autofill it. And so I'll just say yes. And what that does is it just copies this down. So this is a relative cell reference where you can see that B up here is changing. So that's B3. This is B4, B5, 6, 7, 8, etc. So it's just carrying that formula down. I always like to double check and make sure that it carried all the way down, because if you have a missing value, like if this person didn't have anything there, it's possible it could stop rather than copying it all the way down. So that's there. The nice thing is, because this is a table, it should stay there. It doesn't always though. So you just always want to check. It's always good practice. And then I'm just going to make that a nice little size there so that it looks a little bit closer. The next one, eligible age, I would do the same thing. The only thing is that some of you have eligibility questions where you have multiple different options. And so it's best to preserve people's original responses in case you decide to use it for something else. So for example, some of you have like, what is your current level in college? And then they have options freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and then graduate student. And you're only accepting people who are undergrads, but you might want to keep the information about them being a junior, freshman, whatever it is, right? And so I'm just going to demonstrate that with this. You can do nested if statements. And so what I would do is I would create another column to the right and eligible age. So I'm just going to name this eligible age without the raw. I'm going to nest my if statement. Now this one, there's only two options for mine, but I'm going to make my third option if it's blank, because I do want to show if it's blank. That's helpful still. So I'm going to say equals if, and then I'm still going to put my expression here. So I'm going to click I am 18 years old or older, because this is the cell that I'm testing. So I'm testing D2 to see if it equals the option where it's what you want it to be. So if it's the eligibility is that you have to be at least 18 years old, then I want them to say yes to this. So I'm going to say I am 18 years old or older. Just a note, you can, in some other formulas, you can use an asterisk, like right, I'm gonna copy this, right here, and then it's supposed to look at anything that starts with that. And so that way you don't have to type out the whole thing. It's called a wildcard, but you can't do that with if statements. So make sure that you type out the full things. I know some of you have experience with sheets. Just make sure that your letters and spacing and all of that is correct. So then after that, again, I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to say if they match that, I want to say yes, that they're eligible. And then I'm going to nest it. So by nesting it, I'm just putting multiple if statements together. So my next one is if, so I did a comma, and then I did my next if. So there's my comma, there's my next if. I want to refer to the same cell, so D2 equals. And then my other option is I am under 18 years old. Look, there's a blank one. So I'm going to say equals under 18. Oh, there we go. Follow my own rules. I'm under 18 years old. Again, we want the full response there. And then if they respond to that, so if it matches that one, I want it to be a no. Now, I don't really need to do this. I could do it the same way I did the informed consent for mine. But again, if you have multiple different responses, not just two, this is how you do it. So then I'm going to do a comma, and then I'm going to have the response option be for if they don't respond to anything. I'm going to make it a blank quotation. So just the double quotations, that means that I want it to stay blank. And then I'll close that. And then the nice thing is that Sheets, if I were to do it, if I were to press enter right now, Sheets would work, but technically I'm missing another parenthesis here. So if I have one opening, two opening, I need to have two closing here. There's that. And I have a handout with this for you for class with how these if statements work. But this is just an example of a nested if statement. So then I would do the same thing. I'm going to do this suggested autofill. And again, I'm going to check it because I have a blank response in there this time. Oh, that's nice. It decided to work and carry all the way down. Again, sometimes it doesn't, even if you're doing the same thing. So it's always good to check and just make sure. So the next variable for raw units, I actually don't need to change that, so I'm not going to change that one. But in the next video, I'm going to talk about gender. Sex and gender, I don't really need to change because I can just leave them as the words. They're nominal, so having a number associated with them doesn't really do anything in Jamovi. So I'm gonna leave those as is. So the next video, I'm just gonna talk about gender with this other option, and then I'll show you a couple other things.